All right, let's go ahead and jump back into part two of my Spider-Man Brand New Day movie review. Just going to hang out, play some Spider-Man, and talk about the new movie. One of the things I will say about the new movie is that if it doesn't make you want to come home and play Spider-Man, you didn't watch the movie. Thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. Played this game before, but again, after watching Spider-Man Brand New Day, all I wanted to do was come home, play the game, read my comics, which was hilarious because after reading all of the comics before the movie, I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was too much. That was too intense. And then as soon as I got home, I wanted to jump back into all like 300 plus of my Spider-Man comic books. So, needless to say, I really enjoyed the movie. I spent last part of the video talking just kind of in general about the film, what I liked. Some of my expectations were like um, beautifully and happily let down. I really expected to see some more hype and build up to the overall Marvel universe itself. And this was not that. This was just a very grounded Spider Man movie. In fact, I feel like in a lot of the Spider-Man movies, even the Andrew Garfield films, that we get a lot of things that are kind of forced into the movie that never go anywhere, right? A lot of like hints, build-ups. There was a whole like Sinister Six thing that got alluded to, and then even in the Tom Holland films that we've had lately, there've been a lot of like deleted and credit scenes from other movies that add um, the idea that there's going to be more to this universe, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't gone anywhere, and I was really worried we were going to see more of that, like more credit scenes that don't go anywhere, that don't do anything, and that's not what this movie was. This was just a very cool, grounded Spider-Man movie, but also, as I stated, just a very good Peter Parker film, and then just a good movie in general. There was something about the scenes of New York, which is again why I kind of wanted to jump into this game. Um, it didn't feel like a lot of superhero spectacle. It just felt like a very cool New York film, something like As Good as It Gets, or, anything like Ghostbusters, something that takes place in New York, and it just kind of like, the city itself almost feels like not just necessarily like a set piece, but a character within the film. Like there was a lot of cool stuff with like Parker, Ned, Mary Jane, and just some like scenes that didn't necessarily have like explosions or a ton of things like going on. It was just you know them maybe at a party or Peter just like walking into a storefront to buy like some flowers or something like that, and it just felt like a very well shot
10:30. Got a robbery in progress.
um,
Location is munition
beautifully
mile.
edited
Over.
film. All of the music choices were perfect. Again, the way the film was cut into each other. As I mentioned before, um, and maybe I didn't like explain this very eloquently in the first piece. There's so much going on, and it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel rushed. Each
Possible drug deal in progress.
scene
Nearest
just
unit approach
felt
with caution.
like a
Location is in the vicinity of
um,
Devil's Shelf.
like it was a scene that was it. I mentioned this too. It's like there was somebody who mentioned that there was a time before all of these.
This piece of the Shocker's original uniform showed me how to protect myself from his blasts.
Nice.
Of course, they always upgrade, don't they?
But I mentioned before, like so much of like today's films, like you can watch a movie and you get deleted scenes and added stuff and extra this and then a director's cut, this and that. And movies back in the day, you didn't really have a lot of that, and they just worked. You just sat down. It was just a good movie, and that's what this felt like. It just felt like just a really solid, well put together movie where like the casting, the costumes, the flow, the editing, like everything just really worked for this movie. And then you throw in the fact that it's Spider-Man, and it was just icing on the cake. And we've had a ton of Spider-Man movies. Tom Holland even reprising his role outside of the Spider-Man franchise in the Avengers films. And I felt like this was the first real fresh look at the character, like since the first movie, And in fact, that was my overall take. Like, I feel like this is the best Spider-Man experience in the theaters since that first film, and probably my favorite movie-going experience with Spider-Man since the animated um, Into the Spider-Verse film. Um, it's just a very fresh, very new look, and as I mentioned, also, you have a certain level of like spectacle with like superhero movies, and there's so many of them nowadays. It's kind of hard for them to all really stand alone, and kind of stand out among so many. Um, from not even just Marvel, but all the different DC and the Superman movies and all of these different things. How do you stand out and be something special? It's like I kind of feel like some of these films, like Deadpool, Wolverine. I mentioned Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. A lot of these films, I feel like it just kind of lost in the mix of superhero movies. And Superman, great superhero movie, really great fresh take on the Superman character, but doesn't stand out quite like this Spider-Man film does. Um, and then again, like I mentioned, the New York feel and the look of it. There's just certain
All units,
things
we have a
like
vehicle collision.
um,
Officer assistance needed on
even
scene.
outside of
Officers, please converge on Longacre.
like some of the locations and some of the set pieces of New York within the movie. Even outside of that, there were just certain things about like the way the movie was shot um, that really stood out. And I think one of my favorite things was the end of the film during the credits. They had this isn't really a spoiler, so don't worry. But they had just different shots of New York kind of playing over the credits, and it was just like kind of like establishing shots of the skyline and bridges and different parks and different things like that. Very beautiful still shots of all of these different locations in New York. And as the music's playing and there's like all the different credits and the actors rolling across the screen, it was very beautiful. And again, it reminded me something that didn't necessarily belong in a um, like a superhero film. Like it was more like just a cool uh, sh- shot or way to end the movie that you would expect in just a film that maybe just takes place in New York in general. Like maybe a coming of age story or like a romance comedy, like the way they might end a movie with just these really cool shots of New York. To go ahead now, I'm going to get into some of the actual main pieces of the film. So if you haven't watched the movie yet and you don't want like any direct spoilers to what's going on, I would go ahead and stop this now. And just know that this is a movie worth seeing multiple times in the theater. Like I
All
left the
units on
theater,
alert. Report of a kidnapping. Incident is active near Longacre. Over.
I left the theater wanting to go right back in and watch it, and kind of like foaming at the mouth for the Blu-ray release. You know what I mean? Like I'm already waiting to own this movie so I can watch it over and over and over again. It was funny. It was sweet. It made me tear up quite a few times. In fact, I was wondering, like, I was like, when and how often am I going to cry in this movie? I want to say I teared up quite a few times, at least like 3, maybe 4 times in this film. I got a little emotional. Not always like bad emotional. Sometimes it was just like something really sweet, or I would laugh to a point where, I couldn't help but cry a little bit. I think the whole end with him and the Punisher and Parker calling out Frank for crying, that made me laugh and smile to the point where I think I teared up a little bit myself. But honestly, from the very beginning of the movie, I started to tear up like right away just from hearing the music and the
Wonder what kind of
opening.
trouble Shocker's into this time.
And it wasn't even like it hadn't even started yet. They phase Peter out of like all of the opening shots and like the Marvel logo, when they always show characters in the Marvel logo, like as they're showing him and his friends, like Parker ultimately like gets like edited out
All units,
basically. I'm guessing from
alert in progress.
the
Report
spell,
location is Nolito.
and that was really emotional. But it had all the cues, the laughter, um, the sweetness, the callbacks. So let me go ahead now and just jump into what my favorite pieces were. Now, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the previews with that whole tank scene with the Punisher, and they're like flying down the highway, trying to stop this thing. Right out of this game, and again, it felt like a whole quick time event in this um, in this movie, but there was so much of that. Again, there's like the DOC that are within this movie, and it feels like a lot of the SWAT and bad guys that you take down in this game here as well. Well, I can't let these guys get away now, can I? Hold tight.
Carjacker delivery.
Oh, shoot. Oh, well. Oh, shoot. Is it backup?
More of them? Guys, if you worked this hard at a legit job, you wouldn't need to be criminals.
Oh, not a big guy. Whoa, shoot. These big guys are such a problem. I forgot. It's still so early in this game, I don't really have anything. Alright. I'll take those guys out.
So that concludes our Spider-Man car tour of New York.
There we go. But so, like, in the movie, like, Spider-Man actually fights some of, like, the DOC guys, especially at the end. He realizes the DOC is bad, and you see stuff like that right there when he's fighting them. They'll literally, like, kick one into a wall, and they will, like, get webbed up, and it's just really,
I better be more careful with my adoring public.
that was crazy.
I knew that Jameson was a liar. You're the best. Thank you.
So we get like a,
That was sweet. They deserved it.
to get like a
You.
fist bump.
That was sweet. They deserve it.
Over here. My husband thanks you. My kids thank you.
Sorry.
That's cool.
You're a mensch, Spider-Man.
I heard him
Thank you. My
Give me
husband
the
thanks
cup.
me. My kids thank you.
The cup's important.
so great when you were like, and you just like, oh man.
All right, sorry. So I got a little distracted there, doing a little web slinging, but it's hard not to save the city, you know. Some of my favorite parts. Oh shoot! Oh my god! I think I'm screwing up my microphone here. I think I just went silent. Probably can't even hear anything I'm saying anymore. Which is good because it's all going to be spoilers. It's like a lot of the misdirection. I feel like, again, I mentioned that a little bit, but I kept thinking he was going to thin him out. I kept seeing the black shorts and or mutant out or something, and that's kind of the direction they went with the trailers and stuff. And then as you get into the movie, you realize it's not necessarily like he's struggling with like a symbiote or something like that, but it's more like he's just struggling with his own self and his own powers, and that it's not about him turning into a new thing, but just becoming like a new phase, a new age of Spider-Man. And again, it's kind of like what I've wanted is like an adult seasoned Spider-Man. And all of that struggle that we see within the trailer is really just him trying to struggle with, like, not necessarily like new powers, but a new level of power, if you will, and getting us to a Spider-Man that I've always wanted to see, like on the big screen. Um, I love how they handled, again, Frank Castle and Spider-Man's character, and there's like this established that they've got a history. You know, they keep mentioning the Staten Island incident where Spider-Man saves Frank on Staten Island, and I really hope there's talks that, you know, Frank is supposed to get his own Punisher movie. I hope that happens, and I think it'd be great if it was like a scene somewhere, either in the beginning or maybe even the, like, you know, middle somewhere, where we see Spider-Man actually rescue Frank.
All units, narcotic sale reported in
Kind of like
progress.
we,
Officers needed
you
in
know,
Little Italy.
we hear him mention in this movie. They don't really do a lot with the X-Men, or with necessarily like where does Jean go after that, which I like because it kind of leaves it open. And then I'm guessing, you know, that's our first, again, confirmed credit for casting in this new X-Men, because I can't imagine that if the Marvel Universe is going to go forward with this new X-Men movie, that they're going to consider casting somebody else in this movie. It's the right age, you know. She's like a student age character, and apparently all of the like actors being considered for like Magneto and Professor X are more like in their 40s, maybe 30s.
Attention units,
Um,
break-in was just reported.
so it's kind of like you got this young teacher teaching young students story, as opposed to the students being in their 30s and 40s, and like Magneto and Professor X being more like older older characters. I love where they left off the Incredible Hulk, kind of like he's back to being this bit of a mindless buffoon. That was something cool too. Is like Jean Grey kind of goes in, and as she's messing with characters' heads, I feel like she's kind of reestablishing what these characters were like in the Marvel universe. You know, we first meet the Incredible Hulk in the Avengers films. He's like, you know, somewhat of a raging maniac, but Banner's got him somewhat under control, and can kind of like call on him when he needs to, sort of a thing. And then after Thanos, you know, the Hulk kind of gets broken, and then Banner kind of creates this like smart Hulk, and it was really cool to see the Incredible Hulk, just no Hulk, no Banner, no girl, just Hulk, and just back to that brutal, disruptive, like rage that um, isn't really any accountability for, like, uh,
And that's that.
whoa.
Every crime tower in the city's now repaired.
Pretty good work, right?
Pretty good, yeah.
Good enough that maybe you'd let a certain someone celebrate with us?
Fine, but make it
Oh,
quick.
come on, stop.
The odds were long, the danger close. But between Spider Cop's
Why
reckless
is he not-
intuition and the Chief's determined planning,
Why is he
they
not sticking?
got the job done.
Aw, that's
What?
kinda sweet.
What the
A
heck?
pairing of opposites, like
Dude.
peanut butter and chocolate, or breakfast for dinner.
What the heck is
Two
going
work
on?
together.
And we're done. Talk to you later, Spider Cop.
She's
I
coming
guess-
around.
He can't
Right?
stick because of those little
Yeah,
posts out
definitely.
everywhere. That's so weird. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so I love where they left off the Hulk. Mary Jane and Ned's character, there's still like some mystery to that. I feel like at the very end we do confirm that Ned does remember who Peter is through their little handshake. But I feel like Mary Jane might have a little bit more to work through before she gets there.
Folks,
Oh God.
you know
All
I
right, let's take a
don't
break real
like to
quick.
promote conspiracy theories, except ones I think are worthy of further discussion, like this one.
I love the
Spider-Man
angry swinging.
hovering around radio towers. First, I thought he was
Spider-Man's like taking
sabotaging
Mary
them.
Jane home
But a
after
far
she
more
tells him that
alarming
she's never going to love him, or she doesn't love him.
In his
She doesn't. What is it? Not she
misguided
doesn't. No, she doesn't remember
delusions,
him,
he
and she
is
doesn't love him.
protecting us. Is he hacking
And he, like,
into all
angry
our
swings home.
conversations, business deals, credit
Love it.
card transactions, those personal calls with the wife when you're on a long, lonely book tour. I mean, when one is on a book tour, I wasn't talking about myself. I don't do that sort of thing, and anyone who thinks they have recordings of me doing it is wrong.
I mean, when he's talking, you just got to let him talk, right? I guess I'm going to swing over to the main checkpoint because I think I've got all of the towers unlocked, which was what I was kind of going for right now while I talk about this. So yeah, let's just go ahead and make our way, I guess, over to the Shocker.
Attention units, we've got a
Because I've
10-10 possible narcotic sale. Officers need
finished
to
talking about my movie. Oh yeah, so the end, there is a bit, I feel like, of a hint to Doomsday. Like I said, this is just a straight up Spider-Man movie. Don't look for anything crazy or over the top as far as like hints to anything else. But Ned creates a Spider-Man tracker, which could be used later on if he does decide to become the Hobgoblin. He could use that to track Spider-Man and find out where he is all the time, which would be very interesting. But Ned's Spidey tracker picks up an unknown Spider-Man. And I'll go ahead and tell you this now. Everybody keeps saying, like, oh, this character is hinting that there's Miles Morales in this universe, and this is hinting at this, and this is hinting at that. There is none of that at all. It is
That's
just
what you said last time.
a typical Spider-Man movie. They don't hint at Miles Morales, and in fact, if you're smart, you realize they hinted at Miles Morales existed in the very first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. You know, so
But this could be
don't
so much more rewarding if we connect
be
on an
looking for Miles
emotional level.
Morales in this film. But they do hint at an unknown Spider-Man, and it's off in outer space. Everybody's like thinking like, oh no, it's
At least talk to
glitching
me so we
because
can make it interesting.
it's another dimension. And no, it's glitching because it's in outer space. And I think what it is we have
Shocker now?
another Spider-Man
Shocker?
in the spaceship that we see at the end of the Thunderbolts movie. And my hint is, or thought, is it's going to be Tobey Maguire teamed up with the rest of
Gotta hurry.
the superheroes that we've already seen.
Gotcha. Now let's talk.
Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. Please,
Honestly, Herman,
Please go
why are
see
you
the
robbing
movie.
Again? You know the police are watching your every move.
please make sure you like,
I
share,
know
and
you're
subscribe.
kinda dumb, but I didn't think you were this dumb. You must be desperate. Which means
And actually,
you're
I
not
might-
just stealing for yourself.
I might come back and talk
You
about
must
the
be
movie some
working
more. I
with
love it so
someone.
much.
Or for someone.
But until then, guys, take care of
Tell me what
yourself.
it is now,
Take care of
or
each
make me
other.
punch it out of you later. Your choice.
And remember, don't spend that quarter anywhere else.
Move, move, move!